The most urgent problem in your business is probably not the one that you should work on first. In fact, focusing on urgent problems is often the reason nothing ever really changes. All right, I know this is a bold statement, but I want to prove it to you and show you a better way to decide what deserves your attention so your work actually creates progress for you in your business. If you're ready, let's spend the next 30 minutes or so unlocking this idea. You're going to thank yourself for taking the time to tune in. So make sure that you subscribe, you share this with other folks, and we will dive into Small Business Saturdays here.
Dark gaze, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. Our success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we broke through, we rise above. No more feeling stuck, we're fueled by love. Our small business is shining, reaching new heights. With the support of our success group, we're taking flight. The power is strong, the vision so clear. Building our dreams with no more fear. Together we're resilient, unstoppable force. With our success group.
Let's talk some business.
All right, welcome back to Small Business Saturdays. If this is your first time here, my name's Montgomery, and I'm putting together this show. We do this every week for one simple reason. We want to help us small business owners out there in the world work on your business with more clarity, confidence, and intention. Small Business Saturdays is never about doing more. I know you got plenty on your plate. It's about doing the right things in the right order. And each week we take one kind of business challenge and break it down using, where'd you go? Well, I had to find my book here. We use the framework of the book here, Fundamentals of Business Success, plant, prepare, pollinate, right? So plant, mindset, prepare, strategy, pollinate, take action. And today we're going to tackle a common question that I think we all have, right? We sit down, we've got our list, there's all sorts of things going on, and we say, what do I work on first? The challenge is when everything feels important, it's easy to default to whatever's loudest, whatever's urgent, whatever's right in front of you, right? And action's great, so let's not get too crazy about it, but the fact of the matter is, this is how your business stays stuck in reaction mode. And so we want to slow that momentum down and have a way to make better decisions. So here's what we're going to do. In the plant phase, we're going to challenge the idea that urgency should lead your priorities. In prepare, I'm going to walk you through a practical, repeatable way to decide what challenges actually deserve your attention first. And then in pollinate, you'll get to figure out for you, choosing one clear priority that you can work on immediately, not 10, not someday, but one. So if you've ever finished a full day and thought, why does it still feel like nothing's really moved? You're probably in the right place. All right. So let's dive into the plant phase here. We all have a priority system, even if we've never really named it or understand that we do. And all too often, that system is in a reactive space. That system is whatever screams the loudest wins. An email comes in, notification goes off, we have to take care of it. A customer issue pops up, I get a message or something like that. Something breaks, something feels time sensitive, so we react. Right? That's our system. And hello, Chandler. Thank you for being here. Appreciate you tuning in. If anybody else is tuned in here, love to hear a hello and where you're tuning in from. So that's our system, right? We have this urgency system, and I get it. Many of these things are important, right? In fact, I think they probably at surface level all feel very important. But the real question that we have to ask ourselves is, does the sense of urgency become the default decision maker, right? Urgency by its nature is very emotional. We get this ping, we get this feeling, oh my gosh, bing, 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 red alert, flags going everywhere. It's urgent, it's urgent. And that creates pressure, and it makes everything feel important, even when it's not. And so my argument is that when urgency is our default decision maker, there is a cost to that. That actually costs our business something. You end the week having worked harder, but you cannot clearly point to what actually moved the business forward, right? Maybe your revenue didn't change, your systems didn't get cleaner, your confidence didn't grow. You were busy, but the business stayed the same. And for some of you, I might be hitting a nerve here. I get it, because when I first started thinking about this myself, this hit a nerve for me, right? It made me have some real self-honesty when I said, how many weeks do I end up at the end of where I go, man, nothing grew, nothing got better, right? And so urgent work definitely maintains the business, and that's good. We need to maintain it, but important work is what's going to transform it. I believe urgency is subjective, and a lens at which you look through at urgency, it's really sneaky, right? It's not quite clear. In reality, other people's sense of urgency doesn't need to be your own, right? There's something we might want to hold on to. Other people's sense of urgency doesn't need to be your own. It's your business. You're not doing a job where you're told what to do. But I know that, putting out the fires, clearing out emails, or helping customers or employees with their challenges feels like the responsible thing to do. I love that, checking off a box. Oh, put out that fire, found that solution. And it feels like you're being a very good business owner. But responsibility without direction just keeps you spinning. You're on that hamster wheel. And so what we're thinking about here and what we're looking at here is, it's not to say we're avoiding work. And the reality is, when we choose urgency, you're just being pulled instead of you doing the choosing. And so that's what we want to change. That's the transformation that we're looking for. And so here's the mindset shift that I'd love to plant before we dive into the how. Our goal is not to eliminate urgent tasks. The goal is to stop letting them decide what comes first. If you've ever read or followed the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, great book, by the way. If you haven't read it, I'd highly recommend it. Dr. Covey, the author of the book, has got a matrix in there, and it's his matrix for figuring out tasks. It's basically 4 boxes, and each box is one of these 4 things. One box is urgent and important. Another box is urgent but not important, right? Somebody else's urgency or somebody else's important task, but it's being put on you. Another one is not urgent but important, working on your business, being practical, setting up systems, all the things we talked about that's going to move us forward. And then there's the not urgent, not important, doom scrolling, things like that. Now, like his matrix, the point of categorizing is to make sure that we're focusing on the right things at the right time for us, right? What's right for you is going to be different from what's right for me. So instead of asking yourself when you sit down and go, okay, what am I going to work on? Most of us go, okay, well, what needs attention? Let's just check something off the box, right? And I like that. I like that getting into motion. But the reality is, we need to ask a little different question here. What creates the biggest change if you handle it first? What creates the biggest change if you handle that first? And that one question right there will change all sorts of things when you sit down to try to be more productive. And so how do we do that, right? And I believe the way that we do this is through a simple, repeatable way to answer that particular question. What creates the biggest change if I handle it first? We need to answer that question with some clarity. And so if you're all in agreement with me here, we're going to actually move that. I just noticed something. If you're all in agreement with me here, we've now challenged the fact that having urgency as the default is maybe what we need to change, right? And so the obvious question from there, if we said, yep, I agree, urgency might not be the exact right thing to do here, and I understand why. And so that next specific question is, well, if urgency is not leading and making this decision for me, what does? How do I figure out what the most important thing is? How can I prioritize my business challenges? And I'll be honest, this is a hard question to answer. I was stuck here for a long time, but I found something that has worked for me, and I hope this will help you determine what to prioritize in your business. So let's start here. Step one. And I think this is why I was stuck at first, because step one was so simple, but I think this matters drastically. We need to get the challenges. We need to move these urgent things out of here, out of our head, and external somewhere onto paper, right? Would be a great way to do this. I like to get mine into Asana or whatever the case may be. I just need to get it out of here and put it somewhere where I know it's safe, right? That's the feeling that I'm trying to take care of. Outside of our brain space, so we have a different perspective of it. Because when I get it outside of here, now I can see the bigger picture. See, when you're feeling that pull of overwhelm and urgency, what I suggest doing is just say, okay, pause. I'm going to set a timer for only 10 minutes. I just need a quick 10 minutes to regroup here. And in that 10 minutes, write down every challenge you're currently carrying in your business. Not tasks, but challenges. The root stuff that we talked about just last week, or I think it was the week before that, actually. Things like pricing confusion, inconsistent sales, marketing that feels unclear, too many custom requests, maybe for you, lack of systems, no clear next step. What are the root challenges that you're facing? And by doing that, right, getting that out of our brain space into a bigger picture where I can step back from it, because clarity always starts with seeing the whole picture. We're not going to get clarity like this, right? We need to open up our focus and see the big picture. And when we do that, then we also have removed ourselves from having to react to the closest problem. All right, so that's step one. Step two, right? Easy peasy. Where's your magic wand? Let's wave that sucker. I'm kidding, but I'm not kidding, right? And I want you to look at your challenges, and now you get to have some fun. If you could wave a magic wand and permanently solve one of these challenges, which one would create the biggest positive ripple? Oh, I do this, I get a lot of advantage for that. There's a big return on an investment of my time and energy to do this. Which one would create the biggest positive ripple in your business? Which one changes the game? Not which one is the most annoying, not which one is the loudest. Think in terms of impact, not urgency. And there's a ripple that happens when the right challenges get solved first. Other things start to fall into place. Like, for example, clear pricing improves your profitability. It improves your confidence, and it also improves your sales conversations, right? Another example would be a clear offer. You understand exactly what you're offering and what your unique value proposition is. That's going to make your marketing simpler and more consistent, because you're not fighting every time to figure out what to say. You've got that clear offer to fall back on. Another example might be better customer onboarding processes, and looking at the big picture is going to reduce mistakes. It's going to reduce refunds, and it's also going to, most importantly, reduce stress, right? So the ripple effect that occurs by solving some of these challenges can be pretty great when you look at it from that perspective. So that's the second thing. Wave that magic wand, and just, you don't have to have the right answer, but you got a magic wand. So see what shows up. All right. Third step is what I call the discomfort check. And this step requires some honesty. Which of the challenges have you been avoiding because it feels uncomfortable? I don't want to do pricing because I'm not confident in my pricing. That feels uncomfortable, right? I don't want to work on my offer because I just don't know. I want to be all things to everyone. Okay, right? Right, we can see where this goes. But often the challenge we avoid is we don't avoid it because it's the hardest one. It's the one that actually asks us to make a decision, right? That decision that you need to make about raising your prices potentially. That decision you need to make about narrowing your focus. I don't need to be all things to everyone. I want to offer what is my core area of genius. That decision about saying no more often, the hardest two-letter word in the English language, no. I just said it. Oh my gosh, I lived. Shocking. We need to make that decision to stop doing things the way you always have just because you've always done it that way. And so that discomfort check, while it's uncomfortable, right? It's in the name. It's really, really important because that also gives us clarity. And think of it this way, that's just data. So even though it's uncomfortable, it's okay to leave it out there and look at it and be honest with yourself. All right. And then here's the part where, I don't know, I still second guess myself some, right? Like I think we all do that. We make a decision and we start second guessing ourselves a little bit. And so how can I prove it to myself, right? And here's where step 4 comes in. We just need a filter. We need a way to kind of like, okay, great. My gut tells me this, but I need the science, quote unquote, to back it up. So one of the reasons we react to the urgency is because it is filled with emotion, right? That we need to remove that emotion from the decision, because once we remove the emotion, then the urgency level ratchets down, right? A great way to go from emotional to subjective is to use a priority matrix, right? And a priority matrix is just a flashy way to say, keep score the challenge, and you come up with some criteria to score whatever thing you're looking at. Now, I've got a priority matrix for you that has worked really well for me. And so here's the 4 categories. Here's the 4 criteria. First, look at impact. If this challenge is solved, how much does it improve my profit, my time, or my peace of mind? And then rate that on a scale of 1 to 10. If this challenge is solved, how much does it improve profit, time, or peace of mind? Second thing is ripple. How many other problems get smaller if this one is handled, right? Again, on a scale of 1 to 10, what's the ripple gauge on this? How many other problems get smaller if this one's handled? And then third is alignment. On a scale of 1 to 10, does this fit your strengths, values, and passions, or does it fight against them, right? Like where does that land for you? And fourth, on a scale of 1 to 10, effort. Is this realistically doable right now, or does it require conditions that do not exist yet? Right? And from those 4 things, right, impact, ripple, alignment, and effort, you've got a scale of 1 to 10, and just add them up, just score it, right? You don't need perfection here. Right? There's no answer key to check this against other than you're giving yourself a practical, subjective way to measure these things. So just score it. As I mentioned, use a scale of 1 to 10. If there's a different scale that works for you, that's totally fine. But I like the scale of 1 to 10. That gives me a nice big range. And then one caveat I always put is I don't allow myself to pick a 7. Because to me, a 7's the easy way out. It's kind of that halfway point, right? We never want to say something's bad. We never want to pick a 10. So, right, I just say on a scale of 1 to 10, and 7 can't be one of those choices. Then you can subjectively see which one has the highest total score. And that's your answer. That's where you go. That's where you start. So that's the 4th thing, is use that filter instead of guessing. And then the last and final step in setting up our strategy here in the prepare phase is we finally just need to dive in. And this is the best part. You can't get this wrong. Because you slowed down and were intentional, you will prioritize. You will. I, I will guarantee it, or you get your money back from this Small Business Saturdays episode. Sorry, I've got a lot of bad dad jokes in me today. You will, right? You were intentional, so you will prioritize something better than just the urgent. And so let go of that need for perfection and just start solving the challenge. Talk to people about it. Look for feedback as you go. Don't wait for the best case scenario or perfect time. It's time for action. And that leads us into what you need to do in the next step. And so now that we're ready for action, because right up to this point, we've done the thinking work, right? We've paused, we've been intentional. And it's time when we get to the pollinate phase, it's always about moving into the doing work. Actual stop talking, start doing. Chandler thought that was good. I like it. And so did Sandy. Thank you very much, both of you. Appreciate that. So in the doing, right, you've identified the challenge. You've got that specific priority. If you leave this episode with 3 priorities, you will default back to reaction. So one priority, that's it. Give that one priority your focus and attention. And I get it, right? Choosing one priority means saying not now to others. But here's the truth. You're not avoiding it. You're not harming others by not making their thing a priority. You are clearing the way for solutions, less reactiveness, and more peace and joy. And then you can go solve those other things, right? But you can't give from an empty cup. And so we've got to prioritize our business challenges, take care of those before we can take care of others. And to be intentional with this, I want to give you a few more steps, right? My whole goal with Small Business Saturdays is that we have some framework to go by, right? And so we have those 5 steps. I'll go through the 5 steps in the strategy section, but I've got 3 steps for you here that will allow us to then take action. All right. So let's dive into the first step. We know what we want to work on, but we never defined what the finish line looks like, right? So we need to define what done looks like. And a lot of times we just have this open-ended desire. And honestly, I see a lot of this when we're setting our stretch goals and some of the mastermind calls, right? Well, my stretch goal is to set some goals or gather some information or add some products to Etsy or, whatever the case may be. All great stuff. Perfect, excellent things to get us headed in the right direction. The challenge with it is very open-ended. So when it's open-ended, the work stretches and it never feels complete. So we need to define very clearly what the finish line is. And that finish line doesn't mean you're done running the race. You just completed that part, right? And once you've completed that part, that gives you space to celebrate, see what you learned, and then move on to the next opportunity. But we need those milestones so we can save space for the cycle that we always talk about here, the plant, the prepare, and the pollinate. And so here's the other good news is to have a finish line, we only need 2 very simple things, right? Like I hear SMART goals all the time, and I can never remember the names of the acronyms and do this, do that. 2. So let's make it simple. And those of you that have listened to me in the past know what the 2 things are when it comes to goals. So I'm gonna leave that for you. I know there's a little bit of a delay here, but if Sandy or Chandler wants to chime in, what are the 2 things that we need when it comes to a goal? All right. And yes, so I'm gonna just pause for a second. Let's see if they're paying attention. If anybody's actually at their keyboard here, what are the 2 things? And there's no wrong answer to this, even if it's not the answer I'm going for. Totally fine. But I'm pretty sure you know this. What are the 2 things that we need when we're setting a goal? This is going to be dead air for a second here. Put the pressure on. Oh boy, there we go. There we go. Sandy, good job. All right. Thank you, Sandy, for putting that up on. How much and by when? There you go. Those are the 2 things that we need. How much and by when. Very specific. How much, right? I like to ask, if someone other than me had to measure this accomplishment, what would the specific criteria be? So thinking about the challenge, what would mean that challenge is solved, right? What does done look like for you? How can you give yourself the gold star? That might be another way to look at it, right? Not started, not made progress on, completed, right? Like, how do you figure that stuff out? So here's a couple of examples of finish line things, right? Like I mentioned earlier that we had Chandler says, I forgot how long open air is. There we go. How much and by when? All right. So I said earlier, right? We set some goals. It was maybe one of the things that we were looking at. Gather some information, add some products, all good stuff. But with the finish line, it could look like finalize my core offer of 10 products with full details and pricing in my product price list Google sheet by a week from today on Saturday at noon Central Time. All right. It's exactly 7 days from 26 minutes ago. That could be one of them. Let's see here. Another one could be write and set up my email software for my full new customer onboarding email sequence by a week from today on Saturday at noon Central. Maybe your goal is to have an email sequence set up. Maybe you need to, here's another example of what a finish line might look like. Define clear boundaries for custom requests and add this to my business plan and website and announce the change through a social media post or on Facebook and LinkedIn, letting the customers know what is good for them by a week from today on Saturday at noon Central Time. So what does your finish line look like? All right. So that's step one in the action here, is really define that. Step two is to protect your time for this priority, for this challenge that we have signified is our top priority. Because we've got the clear marching orders. Now you need to get practical about when it's going to happen. Because if you only work on your priority when the day-to-day is done, we're right back in the same place of reacting not having any progress. It'll never get done. So schedule that first. This becomes a big rock for those of you that heard me talk about the big rocks. And so with the big rocks, right, block the time. Treat it like a commitment to the future of your business, because it is, right? I don't want to yell in your ear here, but I want to yell because it is. You need intentional time. All right. Step three, create a not this week list. As important as what you're going to do, some clarity on what you are not going to do is also incredibly freeing. So just write out a short list of not this week. Anything that's not aligned with your chosen priority goes there. You're not ignoring those things. You're just choosing. So let me give you some more examples here. I wanted to pack this episode with as many examples as I could. So for example, maybe it's polishing instead of progress. Right? And so maybe not this week, you're not going to reformat documents just to make them look nicer. Guilty. Right? We're not going to rewrite the same thing multiple times. Guilty. We're not going to tweak layouts, colors, or wording that already works. Guilty. Right? We're not going to, not because it's broken, but because it feels safer than finishing. Right? And so polish instead of progress is going to go on the no list. If it does not move your priority closer to done, it deserves to be on that not that week list. Another example of this is visibility without direction. And I'm just going to blanket so I don't have to say guilty every time. All of these I'm guilty of. Okay. All right. So the next one is thinking about this: visibility without direction. And think like posting on social media just to stay visible, starting on a new platform because somebody said you should. Oh, well, I'm having all the success on TikTok. I don't know why you're not over there. Great. Good for you. I don't have any direction for that. I'm not going to spend my time doing that. Right. You get busy showing up, but you're not leading anyone anywhere. So if your priority this week is clarity, offer, or systems, random posts don't help that. All right. So that's the second example. And then last example of something that maybe should go on your not this week list is any learning that's actually a delay tactic. Right? And I know this one's sneaky. I'm sitting here sharing and asking you to tune into a 30-minute episode. And I know you're learning, and learning does lead to growth. Great. And if that's true, if the learning is actually leading to growth and transformation, 100%, that doesn't belong on the not this week list. But sometimes we need to stop learning and start acting, right? Stop watching another training. Kylie's not going to like me for this, but stop getting another certification, right? We were talking about this earlier, guys. I'm not picking on her, I promise. It's all good. She's doing the things that she needs to do. So I appreciate her allowing me to be the example sometimes, but it's a joke, I promise. Okay. You guys let me off the hook before I get crucified later on. All right. But it could, right. Another thing that this says is it could show up as buying a new tool or software that might help later, right? Researching more instead of deciding. I get it. Information feels productive, but clarity only comes from action. So you know when it's time to take action. And if you already know the next step, learning is not the priority, execution is. There you go. And if the accelerator is moving you forward, Chandler, then dive in, right? But if it's not, that's okay. I've said many times in the accelerator, there's no deadlines, there's no tasks that need to be complete. It's simply a sandbox, a guardrail to play in when you're working on your business. All right. So take the action. That's the other reason, Chandler, that there's action involved with all of the content inside of the accelerator. So it's not all just learning. There you go. All right. That's step 3. Step 4, do the small, honest action first. Right. This is the last part. And I said there was 3, but I forgot about this one. So there's actually 4 steps here. Do not wait for that perfect moment to start. I know I told you to schedule it, but when you're inspired, take action, right? Yes, schedule it so you do focus on it. But if you're inspired right now, you don't look at your calendar and go, "Ooh, boy, nope, that's not scheduled until Wednesday. I'm going to wait till then. I don't have anything more important to do, but I'm going to wait till then." No, right? Ask yourself right now, what is the smallest honest step I can take today? I don't know, leave right now and go do it if you feel so inspired. I'm okay with that. I mean, I want you to stay, but the reality is I want you to take action more than I want you to stay and listen to me. So when you choose the right priority and then you commit to it, you're going to know what matters this week. And that leads to feeling confident about future weeks as well. This will snowball. This will continue to help you. Plus, you also just determine what can wait. It really is time, you guys, to stop second guessing every one of our decisions that we make throughout the day. I know that's hard, but the fact of the matter is we can. And the hardest part is we know what to work on in our gut, our soul, our intuition, whatever you call that. We just need to trust that. And I think slowing down enough to look, here's what the steps are. That gives us space to trust what we already know to be true. And that confidence is what reduces stress and creates forward progress. So I hope today you saw that focusing on urgent problems is often the reason that nothing ever really changes. And I believe that we just unpacked a very practical way to decide what deserves your attention so you can work on things that actually create progress. So before I kind of close here, I do want to go back through and just give you, I'm going to give you a moment here. Go get a piece of paper if you don't have one handy. And here are the first 4 steps to use to prepare, right? The strategy part of this. All right. So number 1, get the challenge out of your head and onto paper. Number 2, the magic wand question. If you could wave that magic wand and permanently solve one of these challenges, which one would create the biggest positive ripple? Number 3, the discomfort check, right? That honesty about what am I avoiding? And could whatever I am avoiding be the fact of the matter is that I'm avoiding it because I have to make a decision. You can make a decision. And here's the greatest part about being a business owner. You can change that decision. You can change your mind, and that's okay. It's your business. And then step 4 is to just use that simple filter we talked about instead of guessing. Give yourself that subjective way to measure, right? And my matrix is impact, ripple, alignment, and effort. How much effort will it take? How much alignment is this to who I am? How much ripple will this cause? And what's the impact that solving this problem will make on things down the road for me? All right. And again, you don't need perfection there. So we got four steps. Oh, 5 steps, actually, 4 things in the matrix. And then, yeah, so step 5, this was the one that I forgot about. Choose one. Just pick one. That's it. Not 3, 1. What's one this week? I'm not asking you to pick one forever, just one this week. And then as we get into action with it, start by defining what the finish line is, what done looks like. Secondly, protect the time for working on that priority. Third, create a not this week list. And then 4th, do the smallest honest action first. When you're inspired, take the action, take the action, take the action. Because urgency will always be there, right? Therefore, we can't make putting out fires our long-term strategy. Progress happens when you actually slow down just enough to choose the right challenge first and define what done looks like and give that work the attention that it actually deserved. So as you head into this next week here, know that you don't need to fix everything. Focus on moving one meaningful thing forward. And please take this one step further with me. For you guys that are tuned in, watching the recording, or are tuned in live right now, head over to the Facebook group. It's already there. The post is already there. I scheduled this post to show up while this live was happening. And I have 9 steps here. What do you have? Yeah. I'm all over the place with numbers today. It'll be, I'll put a recap in there. And plus the blog on Monday has this all mapped out for you as well. So, sorry, shiny object there. Let me head back. Head over to the Facebook group, go to osg.link/group. I'll put that banner up here. And I scheduled a post to show up while this was live. And it's just a simple prompt to help us keep this conversation going, help you lock in your one priority for the week. So share what you chose and what done looks like for you. That way we can cheer you on. And I'd love for all of us to be in there commenting as well together. You know, maybe we can be a loving sanity check, right? That reality, right? You don't have to figure this all out alone is the truth of the matter, but you do have to show up. Right? You do have to participate, not just watch. So next week, we're going to talk about why motivation is only the start of achieving goals. And yes, motivation gets us excited, but structure and commitment are what carries you through when that motivation starts to fade. So if you've ever started off strong on something and then stalled out, you do not want to miss next week's episode. But with that being said, I think we've covered it all. Let me go back and make sure I didn't miss any comments. And thank you guys so much. Thanks to Sandy and Chandler for being tuned in live. And again, next week, we're going to talk about why motivation is only the start of achieving goals. So thank you guys for spending some time with me. I will see you next Saturday at noon Central Time on Small Business Saturdays. And so don't miss that opportunity to dive into another topic. We'll see you then.
Dark days, overwhelmed, trapped in a maze. Small business owner, stress had me in a daze. Every problem piled up, couldn't catch a break. Thought I couldn't make it, my dreams were at stake. But then I found a group that changed my whole perspective. A success group of a community so effective. We all chasing that dream, sharing struggles and fears. They understood my journey, wiped away my tears. Together we